Hello viewers, my name is Miss Electoli, Faculty of English at Edufy, and today we're going to talk about another topic of grammar, that is law of inversion. Let's not waste any more time and go into the topic in detail. So what is law of inversion or law of inversion in grammar? What does it mean? And when I say law, a lot of times we think about the other parts of law, right? When we talk about law of inversion in grammar though, it has a connection with the sentence, right? That means the structure of the sentence. So law of inversion in grammar actually refers to a syntactic rule or a pattern in a sentence that basically does not follow the basic rule of the subject, verb, and object in a sentence, but rather where we invert the sentence, the parts of the sentence to make complete sense. And what are they? When we look at a normal sentence, a very important or a basic statement, we see that there is a structure of a subject that comes at the beginning of the sentence, then which is followed by a verb as well, and then an object. For example, if you look at this sentence here, we see she is coming. You can write here or there also according to your choice, right? But this is a statement that is normal statement. We have a subject that begins the sentence followed by the verb and then the object if you want to. So this is a normal statement that we majorly use in all the basic structures and all the basic statements that we speak or write as well. So therefore, that is the basic sentence as we talked about. Now if we move on, we also see that there is inversion. And what is that inversion? If we look at the sentence, we have is she coming in the sentence. If you look at this part of the sentence, you see that is she coming has been written here. Now in this sentence, what is the difference from this one to this one? We have to see that, right? And what is the difference? The verb is coming before the subject. This is called the inverted law or inversion of law of inversion. Okay, that means we see that the verb or the auxiliary verb, as we say, that is helping verb, comes before the subject to ask a question or sometimes even to show some kind of negativity within the sentence. Now, what is inversion? As I've talked about, inversion is the reversal of the normal word order in a sentence, typically involving switching the position of the subject and the auxiliary or modal verb. These two are the types of helping verbs as we know. Now let's move on to the different types of inversions. Now inversions can happen in various cases, not just in one that is asking questions, but in various cases, like I said, to show negativity within the sentence also, right? So we will have to look into that when we see the different types of inversion. The first one is subject auxiliary inversion. Whenever we see he can swim in this sentence, this is a normal sentence. Now when I invert this, what has happened? What has happened? We see can he swim. Therefore we use this subject auxiliary inversion when we want to form an interrogative sentence, also known as sentences that ask questions. Are you ready? Have they arrived? What did she say? So here what do we find? We see the words are you ready? The auxiliary verb are has come before the subject you, asking about the readiness, that is the verb, right? So therefore what do we see? We see the auxiliary verb that comes before the subject. So what is this? This is an inverted form of the verb. We see that subject has come after the auxiliary verb. Same thing here also, auxiliary verb comes before the subject and then the main verb. Main verbs are what? Words that denote actions themselves, so therefore it comes after the subject only. Please remember that when I say inverted form of the verb, I don't mean to say that the main verb will come at the beginning of the sentence. No, actually the inverted form will always have the auxiliary verb that comes before the subject, okay, not the main verb. Similarly, if you look at the third sentence here, what is not the inverted form? If I say what, a lot of people say, okay, that's the inverted form. No, the inverted form is did and she. Did is the auxiliary verb and she is the subject. what is basically an interrogative word used to ask the question and not a verb at all. So that is the main usage of the first type of inversion. Let's look into the second type of inversion. It's negative adverbial inversion. This means sentences that begins with a negative adverbs can be written in the inverted form. That means whenever you have a sentence, let's say an adverb such as hardly, scarcely, rarely, these are all negative in nature. And therefore, whenever a sentence starts with those adverbs, what will happen? You will also have another form of inversion here. So let's take a look at the examples here. Never have I seen such a mess. This word is talking about how many times have I seen this mess? Never, right? So this is an adverb talking about the action of seeing. Whenever, what is an adverb? As we know, as we've discussed in our previous videos, adverbs are words that describes or gives you more information about a verb. So therefore, never is talking about the verb here. So I'm talking about something in the negative form. So what did I say? Negative adverbial inversion will be added here. So when we have negative adverb, what has happened? The subject I has come after the auxiliary verb have. Okay, so if you see a sentence, say, never I have seen such a mess, that will be a wrong statement. That's a grammatically incorrect statement. You will have to correct it by writing the auxiliary verb first and then the subject after that. The second sentence also, you can see the word rarely, which is an adverb. Seldom, not only, but. So both of these are all negative adverbs within the sentence. And therefore, what do we see? We see the subject coming after the the auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verb and then the subject. So this is what we call the adverbial inversion. Okay, whenever we see a sentence that has an adverb, negative adverb in the sentence, we will write the inverted form of the verb where the auxiliary verb comes before the subject. This should be clear in our head. Now let's take a look. Requires auxiliary verbs. Now you have to know that whenever we see this type of adverbial words that is negative, we also have to know that we must have auxiliary verbs only, not the main verb like I told you in the previous slide. So let's move on to the third one, that is conditional inversion. Conditional inversion, in the previous video we talked about conditional sentences. So that's the same relation to this one. Okay, when we have conditional sentences, we can also again use inverted form of the sentence. That means if I said, I had known, that's correct. But in this sentence, I am giving a conditional meaning. That means a condition attached to one part of the sentence. So had I known, I would have acted differently. This means that if I had known something, if I had the previous information, my action of working on something would have changed, right? So that is the condition attached to it. So here in the sentence, what do we find? Again, we see the inversion form of the sentence. We have the auxiliary verb had, then the subject I. It is inverted form. Why? Because it is showing condition within the sentence. Second sentence also, should you need any help, let me know, right? So here again, model auxiliary verb should plus the subject you. As we discussed, inversion is not just the auxiliary verb itself, but also the model auxiliary verbs. So should you is an inverted form of the verb. Why? Because it is showing this if you should need something, right? So that's also another conditional sentence. Therefore, I can use the inverted form. This is the correct usage of the sentence. If you write this sentence talking about condition and you write you should need help, then that's a wrong statement, grammatically incorrect. So with this, I hope you're clear about the third one. Let's move on to the fourth one. Inversion after the words such as so, such, and nor or neither. Now, it is used for very similar thing, that is emphasis, to show some kind of emphasis within the sentence. Okay, so let's take a look at the first example. So beautiful was she, the sunset, sorry, so beautiful was the sunset that we stopped to watch. Now you have to take care of this sentence. Understand the context of what is this trying to say. Okay, this word so is talking about the degree as to how beautiful the sunset was, right? So therefore, what is the subject in the sentence? The sunset. I'm talking about how the sunset was very beautiful. Yes or no? So is actually emphasizing the quality of the sunset. So whenever I'm using so to emphasize a quality, to show, emphasize, or agreement in the sentence, what will I have to do? Inversion. Helping verb that comes before the subject again. So if you write, so beautiful the sunset was that we stopped to watch, is wrong. That's a grammatically incorrect sentence if you do not write the inverted form. Similarly, if you see this word, such her anger was, if you write, then that's also wrong again. Why? Because it is talking about agreement within the sentence. Such was her anger that she couldn't speak, right? So her action of not being able to speak was dependent on her anger. Yes or no? So therefore, what do I have to do? I will again use the inverted form where we have the verb that comes before the subject in this sentence. These are the four things that you have to remember when we're dealing with inversion. Take a look at the third example. She can sing, and so her sister can be written, right? But that will be a wrong statement again. What do you have to do? She can sing, and so can her sister. So I'm talking about her ability to sing, which is what modal auxiliary verbs are. They talk about capability, possibility, and any kind of probability, right? So therefore, if I see can, I'm saying that she can. She has the ability to sing. So this is an modal auxiliary verb. And what does it do? It is written with so before the subject to show inversion in the sentence, because inversions can be written with so, such, nor, and neither. The third example here, he doesn't like coffee, nor do I. A lot of times we see nor I do. It's a wrong statement. Therefore, what do you do? When you have nor or neither, the inverted form will be used again, where you have the verb before the subject. That will be the right sentence. So this is the main emphasis on what the inversion is and on what type of sentences it can be used. Now, we have to be very careful as to when or why do we use inversion in a sentence. It's mainly to add variety and emphasis in the writing. That means whenever you're writing a sentence, you want to show some kind of variety in your speech or in your writing, right? So that's when we can use inversion. It is also essential for forming questions and conditions. This one is very important, right? Now, we cannot ask question just by writing. For example, if I write, has she known you for a long time? That's an inverted form of the verb that asks a question. So I cannot ask someone a sentence by just saying she has come for you or something like that, right? Doesn't make sense in the sentence. Only if I use the verb that beginning of the sentence can I ask you a question. So it is very essential for those type of questions. Also to show negativity in the sentence, that's very important. So when you use inverted form of the verb in a sentence, it makes complete sense, also much more grammatically accurate. So if you're able to use this rule within the sentences that you read and write, it will be very helpful for you. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you can join me again for another next such video. Have a nice day.